Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week we continue a retrospective on the Fly films with 1965's Curse of the Fly. This is episode 364. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be discussing it from the perspective of horror fans who have seen it. So warning, spoilers ahead. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, publisher at Castle Bridge Media, home of the Castle of Horror anthology. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin, Mr. Drew Edwards is the writer-creator of the long-running underground comic Halloween Man, currently published by Comixology. He is a Best Writer Ringo nominee, Austin Chronicle Best of Austin Award winner, and a member of the PEN America Fellowship. Say hello, Drew.
It's also important to know that you must make sacrifices for science.
You must make sacrifices for science. And finally, also in Denver, color commentary from the one and only Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, Curse of the Fly. Curse of the Fly. And a lot of this looked familiar to me, and it's because it is actually a UK produced film at Shepperton Studios. We'll talk more about that. Curse of the Fly is a 1965 American horror science fiction film and sequel to Return of the Fly, which came out in 1959. It is the third installment in the Fly film series. It was released in 65, and unlike the other films, was produced in the UK. The film was directed by Don Sharp, who made Kiss of the Vampire, and the screenplay was written by Harry Spalding, who did The Watcher in the Woods. So a really cool background, and good blood in this movie. So let's see how well that does. So Julia, we're gonna go Julia, Tony, Drew, and I'll go. This film is a follow-up to the other Fly. It involves two more generations of the rather unfortunate Delambre family, which is always working on early transporters in beautiful Montreal. What are your thoughts on The Curse of the Fly?
Wow, this movie was dark. So dark. I thought so. It starts out with this beautiful woman jumping out a window she's broken, and she's in her bra and panties. That whole bit where she's escaping, quote unquote, from this mental hospital in her underwear was so dumb to me. But past that, I mean, it was beautifully seen, shot. I just thought it was really gratuitous that there's no reason for her to be in her underwear or even to be escaping from a mental hospital, for that matter, because for reasons we'll find out later, that wasn't really important. But anyway, but she does meet the love interest, who is one of the Delambre brothers. Is that the name, Delambre? Did I
Yes.
say that right? Yeah.
Yep.
And then and so of course we're gonna go from there. So but after that point, it's a pretty interesting film. There's a lot of really just disturbing bits. It's really disturbing, like this idea that they're experimenting on people. And I mean, obviously it's calling back to a lot of things that have actually happened in history, which is experimenting on people who are prisoners and hiding them away in these cells.
Yeah.
And then stuff that hasn't happened that I know of, transporting like two people at once so they become one weird blobby person that's like monstrous and then like the idea that you're transporting them and not reintegrating them, so now they're just in the in the
Yeah.
in the ethers. I mean, all these themes were just the idea that if your wife is a little bit deformed, I'm gonna hide her away and like marry somebody else. I mean, there's all these horrible things. So it was real horror. I mean, to me, this was the most of the three horror-ish movie of all. But yeah, really, really interesting and disturbing film.
Wow. Thank you very much. Tony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's weird that what you brought up, because I found it to be perhaps the least interesting, and I do agree that it's dark, but I don't know, just watching it, not having bought the Blu-ray set, which I'm still kind of sad that I didn't do at the beginning, but I don't know, I felt like, I mean, it starts with this almost like Kiss Me Deadly style noir kind of intro.
Thank you for saying that. Yes.
And that's interesting. I mean, there's tons of interesting parts to this movie, but as we move forward, it feels more and more like it's kind of lost its way. Like the rules of teleportation kind of iffy. A lot of the interactions kind of iffy. It's yet again, it didn't gel for me. But to Julia's point, it does have a lot of dark, interesting things. But at the end of the day, I'm just not as enamored with it, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know. But
I'm not sure
again,
Julia
it
was all
has
that
a really
enamored with it
strong
either.
opening, and it's got some really cool bits. Like it's
No, I
definitely worth
wasn't enamored
watching.
with it because I don't really love horror.
Right. Well, I mean, I
I
got
just
you,
thought
but
it was
I
very
found it.
dark.
I found it to be a little bit more, even more all over the map, for my tastes.
Mm.
And I still enjoy it, and it doesn't stop me from liking. I like a lot of B movie stuff. I mean, we were discussing like just putting on Tubi, and there's
Oh
tons
yeah.
of cool, interesting things that are sci-fi. It's starting to recommend all kinds of sci-fi stuff. But as I was watching and I got to the end, it didn't leave an impression that it would be one I would watch over and over.
Thank you very, very much. Drew, what about you?
Well, it's funny hearing the comments because, first of all, this was a hard movie to find for a long time. It didn't have a home video release of any sort until
Mm.
2007. So this was a movie that I'd always been curious about. I only really knew of it through, like monster magazines that I read as a kid. So when I got the box set a few months ago, this was actually my first time watching it, and so like I watched it 2 more times in preparation for this podcast. What's interesting is that this movie is very polarizing. Its defenders
Mm.
fit as this lost classic that is now being reassessed, and its detractors like, oh, how can you call this movie, a fly movie? No one gets turned into a fly monster. I don't think I am at either one of those extremes, but I do think that this is an interesting movie, particularly the
Mhm.
darkness that Julia was talking about. I do think a lot about this movie ends up actually informing the Cronenberg fly that
Yeah.
comes out, that we'll be discussing shortly after,
Yeah.
actually. But not even just visual cues, like sort of burn victim like makeup that the mutants have in
Mhm.
this movie, but the idea that you can have like a fly sort of creature inside of you, and it can affect your DNA, or
Mhm.
the visual of like two bodies being mangled together via teleportation, like these are all body horror things that Cronenberg is with. I also like that this sort of goes back to the sort of like doomed romance stuff from the original Fly.
Mhm.
That was something that was sort of missing from Return of the Fly that is in this. I also think it's kind of cool the way it's a spooky old mansion movie that I always enjoy me an old dark house in a movie. So like I do think this has got a lot of interesting stuff in it, and I think while it's not as great as the original Fly, I do think maybe I understand why its defenders say that it's more compelling than Return of the Fly. Despite its lack of Vincent Price, which he was solely missed, but this has got some cool stuff in it, and I'm glad that I was finally able to get around to watching it.
So, so many thoughts. It is interesting to me that I don't know at what age I was when I realized that when movies took on the title of The Curse, and this is not a critique, like this is a negative thing. This is just the way it is. Like something could be, The Thing, Dracula, or whatever. And then if the title was Return of, then it was the Return of. If it was the Son of, then it might very well be the Son of. Uh, if it was curse of, then that just means we're now in the world of. and
Exactly,
and you,
yeah.
and you may not actually see, and I remember, so this fits into that. I don't think I was aware of this at all, because until we started doing this retrospective, I was not aware at all of the Curse of the Fly. My quick note, and then we'll start talking just about, we'll work our way through the plot, but because there's some wonderful stuff here. There's a lot of plot for this movie. I just want to comment that 1965 at Shepperton Studios, which is the home of Amicus Productions, looks a million years from 1959 Hollywood. They look that they could not. those two universes could not look more different. You really feel like, even though a mere, what is that, like 6 years, a mere 6 years have passed, which is just like two Avengers movies, but this universe looks just incredibly different, and that's kind of fun. It's really wild because you feel like, wow, this is an official Fly movie, but it sure feels strange. And part of it is because it's Americans and British people playing French Canadians at Shepperton Studios in London, and it's I love it. So yeah, let's get into it, because I want to call out the different elements that pop up, because we do start out with what appears to be a Kiss Me Deadly concept, because you said it exactly right, Tony. George Baker, who is a handsome British actor, plays the middle-aged, I suppose, Martin Delambra, who is driving, and he comes across a woman running in her underwear. Uh, that is the beginning of Kiss Me Deadly, and which Kiss Me Deadly was in the mid-50s, right? So this is only, well, I guess it's 10 years later, but I mean, it's still in everybody's mind.
I
Yeah,
have
go
to
ahead.
say, I love the fact that we have someone breaking out of a mental institution, and she's actually the one that's in danger.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
because in a typical horror film, that would not be, what would occur from this. Like I loved her character. I think
Hmm.
that she probably gives the best performance out of anybody in this movie, and that's no knock on the other actors, but she just had a lot
Yeah.
more to work
Her name is
with.
Patricia, the character
Yeah,
of Patricia. Yeah.
Carol Gray. And I didn't I get where Julie is coming from about the way she's introduced, but like there is something kind of dreamy about it, and the fact that she is in her underwear kind of makes it extra like vulnerable. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's dumb. It was just
I
so
it does
gratuitous.
I
It was like we need to
agree.
stick a person in their underwear in here somewhere, and
I can
like
see where
this is
you're
as good a
coming
place as
from.
any.
I can see where you're coming from. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm saying like visually,
I think
it's
she should
very
have been in a nightie, personally.
that would have
It
made
just
more
isn't.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, no doubt. But
What I
it
think
would have
is
been sexy if that's
super
what you're thinking.
strange, though, just to jump a little bit ahead, is that her story, I don't think, because and we'll work our way through it, but I feel like her story is kind of it doesn't get enough time and attention. Her running away, because remember, the girl who was running away in Kiss Me Deadly does die later, but she's connected. That's how Hammer gets into the whole story. Here, Patricia's running away, and it's not connected to the rest of the story, so it's a plot
I
that
would
has to
say that
follow
it is
itself.
though, because
Okay,
she knows that first of all, she is kind of beholden the Delambres, because if she doesn't stay with Martin, she's going to end up right back in this mental
true,
institution. She's kind of
fair. All
powerless.
right,
It also allows them to gaslight her. She's
yeah,
Well,
constantly
okay.
having to question her
So
yeah.
things.
So let's if we're going to talk about this, develop just a little bit more why she's even in the mental institution. Apparently, she's had a breakdown just because of grief, and so I don't even think she would be stuck in the institution. I feel like she would have been let out once she felt better. Hopefully, I mean, of course, not
Well, and in
knowing
fact, when
how
the hospital
that's going.
comes looking for her, and they say, "Oh, well, she got married, so she's here," the hospital goes, "Oh, yeah." I mean, that's it,
Right.
and
So I
and
just don't
that's
think like it was. But I do agree 100%, Drew, that the reason for it, I really think the only reason for it is so that later on it seems like, oh, okay, well, no wonder it's so easy to gaslight her because she's already questioning her own mental
uh,
state.
yeah, okay,
So I do
fair.
think that's the
I
important
think
part.
if they made this now, they would have given her. I think the fact that mental illness was a much more unseemly topic
Mm.
back in the '60s. I think that saying she had a nervous breakdown was probably the most that they could get away with. But I still think that this makes her more compelling and like definitely more interesting than the heroine in Return of the Fly. Like I'm not going to say that she's a better character than the lead in the original, because she really drives that movie. But this
No, it's definitely, you're exactly right. it
I
does
agree too.
make her interesting. It gives her a backstory, which is something we often just are really begging for
Well,
with
it's
characters.
for me. For me, it also kind of gives an explanation as to why she might rush into this romance
Hmm.
with Delambre, because like it makes her feel secure. It gives her this
Mm.
sense of safety. Whereas,
Yeah, that makes sense.
more often than not with relationships like this, we're just supposed to expect it and go along. But they only really take 15 minutes. This is an older movie, so it's shorter. They only really
Yeah.
take 15 minutes to establish that, first of all, they're falling in love, and then also that there's something wrong with and again, I do love the fact that the quote unquote mentally ill person isn't the one going to be she is the victim, not the victimizer. This isn't
Fair. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that about this. It spoke
Mm-hmm.
to me.
Yeah, me too. I
You
like
know,
that.
I just want to mention that what this is doing, and this is really wild. You got to imagine like the director and the producer are maybe like at a chalkboard beforehand and trying to figure this stuff out, because Kiss Me Deadly, like Tony said, but it's also Rebecca. That's the crazy thing. So you have the 1940 Hitchcock movie Rebecca, and how that one opens is you got the girl, and she runs into by luck, she runs into Laurence Olivier, and she escapes her dreary life that she wants to get away from. In her case, it's more boring. She's just a paid what do you call it? A paid companion to some older lady or whatever, and he, meets Olivier, and it's a whirlwind romance, and they spend 2 weeks together, and they get married, and then he takes her back to his crazy fuck family, and that's Rebecca. And it's really neat for me to go, hey, let's take the gun mall sort of from Kiss Me Deadly and Rebecca, and also this escape from the mental institution thing. You're seeing elements of all this stuff. And by the way, the gaslighting stuff is way Rebecca, but also Gaslight.
Right.
So it's wild. And actually, the funny thing is, everything going on with Patricia and her husband and the old wife who's hidden not in an attic, but may as well be, and the servants who are loyal to her, because there are these new servants named Ty and Juan who are totally loyal to the first wife. All of that stuff should be lifted out and be its own movie, because it's a good movie. it's it's neat. I want to see more of that stuff. I love the wife being snuck in at night to play piano just to freak out the new wife.
Well,
That's very cool.
it's got this weird sort of you have like all this atomic age science fiction stuff on one
Yeah.
hand, and then you have this sort of gothic spooky old mansion
Yes.
with like stuff that wouldn't feel out of place in a not a Hammer, but maybe a American International Gothic movie. Like
Yeah.
it's like it's very sort of Allan Poe. And
Oh,
I
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
I I love the fact that this movie is a juxtaposition of those two worlds, because like in some cases literal. Like you will have like this, there's one scene where the servant walks out of like the immaculately decorated gothic living room and goes into this sterile 50s 60s
Yes.
sci-fi hallway into the very Spartan lab with its bizarre instruments in it. Like
It is pretty gonzo, isn't it? I mean,
it's
that's pretty
cool
wild. Yeah.
though. I
Yeah.
I I dig the, like, I want to know who interior decorator is, but like that, like it's cool to see these things mash up against each other
That's
in
a good
such a
point.
way.
Yeah, because my call to say, hey, why don't you give George Baker and Carol Gray their own movie, where they're doing the whole gothic. Well, it would be maybe not necessarily boring, but it would be just another gothic psychological thriller, and people would go, oh, hey, we're doing Rebecca again, and that would be, what's interesting here is, I don't know if you today, guys, if we did a Rebecca type movie, like in Rebecca, Rochester, I think that Rebecca is actually dead, but in Jane Eyre, the wife is basically she has some untreated mental illness, and so she's locked in a cell in the attic, and she's the everlasting bane of Rochester. And here you've got these people who are disfigured, and we put them in cells. I mean, and it's fascinating, and this is something I'd like to talk about. Is it immoral to make monsters of people who are merely disfigured? You know what I'm asking? I mean, in other
Yes,
words,
it
like,
is.
isn't it strange to say,
I think that the dynamic between the dad and the two sons, like this is like the guys in the first two Fly movies, they are perhaps a bit overzealous in their exploration of science. Henry Delambre, the father here,
yeah,
is the first person I would say who is like straight up evil, like, and he's, very well played by Professor Quatermass himself.
when did Brian Donlevy play Quatermass?
He
I know
was
he
the
did.
original. He was the original
Oh,
Quatermass.
I don't think I've seen that's 5 million years to the Quatermass experiment, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. See, I haven't seen
he's
it. I
the
know I need to.
original. Maybe we'll do a Quatermass. How is there a Hammer movie that I have seen and you haven't? This is
Well, I mean,
insane.
I'm sort of I tend to have my own stuff, and they tend to be gothic, and so Quatermass being basically science fiction, I just didn't really happen to go near it.
Fair. Maybe we'll just have to do a Quatermass retrospective at some point. But yeah, he's the original Quatermass, and he's actually the only guy that played Quatermass twice. But he's
Hmm.
very good at playing this sort of a completely amoral sociopath, but yet he isn't aware of that, and he somehow got his two sons
Yeah.
roped into this. Like it's
Do you want to explain to us what's going on in the family Delambre in this slightly variant universe from the one that we've known?
so it doesn't exactly, because the son Fly, the original Fly, in the
Yep.
previous movies is named Philippe.
Yep.
However, this character whom we are supposed to believe is the son of the original Fly is named Henry, which is actually the name of the son character in the original short story. So perhaps for whatever reason they had to go back to that. But he has his two sons, one who is in England and one who is in Canada.
Yeah.
And they are still performing these teleportation experiments. In fact, they have actually managed to teleport Henry to England, although he did suffer radiation burns.
Radiation burns. Yes.
Radiation burns from that. Martin, because of the Fly DNA that is in his body, he's actually the closest thing we have in this movie to a human fly hybrid. We never really go all in with that, which is
Excellent
interesting.
point. Hadn't thought about that.
But he has a degenerative disease which causes him to age quickly unless he gets the shots of God knows what periodically. So this apparently skipped his brother, and the one in England, who has had it with the family mad science business. Like he is just done with this whole thing.
Well, he's done a couple minutes too early, but yes.
Yeah. But it's it's interesting that this is very much a family drama on top. Like they managed to pack like a lot of characters into this movie, and
Boy, do they.
sort of understand where everybody's coming from. But Henry Delambre is like a straight up scientist. Like
yes.
he is, and again, I kind of understand why he's able to control Martin, because it seems like he's the one that administers this drug most of the time that's keeping Martin alive. How he got him to continue going along after his wife basically turned into a zombie after a teleporter accident is a bit beyond me. So Martin clearly has some issues of his own. But
well, by the way, that going back to Rebecca, that's the whole thing where Maxim is running away from whatever disaster befell his last marriage, and so he swoops in with this new fresh wife, and he's gonna. So there's a certain kind of like I don't even know what the right word is, but
Yeah,
you
what
know,
befell his last marriage is that he just disformed his wife and stuck her in a cell.
yeah, she may. I don't even know how crazy she is. I mean, she seems,
She's not
you know,
crazy. She's just not
she's just
attractive anymore.
abused, and which is
Well, she does attack a servant,
oh,
like,
that's true.
and
Because
she
she's
does
been imprisoned
she
by
does.
her.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah,
fascinating.
she seems like she's the one. She seems like she's to her out of
But
No, but that's
everybody.
still her. It's like, whatever. I don't
I just think it's interesting. Like for me, these two things are disparate enough. I like the set design. I like what Drew was talking about. But this sort of kind of baited switch where we think that the father is the first teleportation, person because oh well, it didn't quite work out. He's got these burns. Oh wait, we were doing it all along. All that stuff and the rules of it again just seem really
Talk to me about the
arbitrary.
rules, because I guess I didn't take enough in as far as like when they're mixing up what appear to be how the transporter works. Like what what are
I
you
mean,
thinking
that's the
of
thing
there?
is there's not really like, oh well, it worked, but it doesn't really because he's gonna get radiation burns. But then, oh wait, we have this bunch of people where why is that surprising considering it used to mess up, all that stuff. Oh,
Yeah,
it's because we didn't have the right parts. But
yeah.
did they always not have the right parts? Because at some point in time they were teleporting people. Like all of it's really loose,
Well,
I
and
guess,
also
and
the
that's
end of the first movie seems to have been rewritten.
right.
Apparently in this fly universe, this alternate fly universe, David Hedison didn't squish his own head. Apparently, he lived on, I guess, and had another son
Well,
who has fly DNA.
I don't.
Right.
I think it's supposed to be the same kid. They've just changed his name.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
got that
he would
impression
have
that's what
too,
I
but
figured.
fly DNA because he's been a human fly himself. But here's the thing. This kind of syncs up with the other movie, like because there was 6 years between, and of course, we often say on this, there's no way to like go back and readily rewatch the previous two movies.
Yeah.
This kind of syncs up with the other two movies the way some of the latter Universal Frankensteins sync
Mhm.
up. Like
Well, that's an
they're
excellent point. Yeah.
they're like you can tell the people behind this kind of were hoping that you would have like a hazy memory
right,
of
I
what
get
the
it.
previous two movies were about, and I can deal with that, but it is more difficult to do when you've watched the previous two so recent, like they're fresh when they're fresh
Yeah.
on your mind.
No, excellent point. That is an excellent point. Yeah. Okay. So we should talk. Well, we should work our way through. Okay. So Martin, played by George Baker, has come back with his new wife, and so very soon they begin the new. They continue their experiments at the same time that a whole subplot begins where Juan, the servant, really wants to get rid of this new wife. And that's some of the best stuff. It's that gothic stuff that Drew was talking about, where she's doing things like switching out the photographs on the nightstand
Yeah,
and
that's the whole gaslighting.
bringing in a
Well,
wife to play piano and all kinds of great stuff.
she's
I
really like torturing her,
Yes,
like.
yes. I don't completely know what I mean. I guess her hope is that they're gonna send this woman back to the institution that she came from. But and
Yeah, I
along
think
the
that is it. I think the idea is that she'll think she's crazy, everybody else thinks she's crazy,
yeah,
and so she'll be gone.
Well,
yeah,
also, I think she thinks that what Martin is doing is wrong, which I mean
Hmm.
it
It
kind of
is.
is.
yes.
That they've got his wife chained up in a barn or a stable, and
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So
here
you
you're
have these
bringing in,
cells where you're
yeah.
keeping the so-called the failures, the as it were the monsters, and my goodness, how awful that is. There's a movie that Tony and I watched at Weird Wednesday once that had Peter Graves as a mad scientist who disfigures people for reasons I don't remember, and he locks them up in cages down in the basement. I totally don't remember the name of this movie, and it was not a good movie. But it reminded me of this because I was like, well, the only reason he's locking those people up is because he's messed up their faces. I mean, it's a failure of special effects, really, more than anything else, right? You have to
I mean,
imagine
I
maybe in the real
guess.
universe, but
Is it better than just like teleporting them and never returning them?
I
I
you
don't know.
got me, man.
I guess it
Like,
depends on what happens when you teleport someone, don't return them.
yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
wish,
We should ask the cat from the first movie.
Right.
right,
yeah.
right.
Well, and so I'm like, if okay, in the future of this technology, it should work like regular printers, which is that it queues stuff up. So there should be like queued up people that
Right.
are like waiting to be rematerialized, like in the transporter beam.
Right. Pattern
When
buffer kind
in
of stuff.
Star Trek, when Scotty gets disappeared into the transporter porter beam, he's just saved up there. He's just buffered, whatever. But he's
Right.
not
But
like
but I don't know
he
if you
comes
remember, but
back.
before
Uh-huh.
that's true. I'm sorry. Continue.
No,
You're right.
proceed.
Well, no, excellent point. Scotty saved himself by sticking himself in the transporter buffer so that later Jordy come around and go, hey, there's some stuff stuck in the buffer. I bet I can print it out. And voila, they got Scotty.
And then he's
That's
lucky it didn't say PC load letter, and
right.
that was it.
But
Oops.
same series, Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Scotty has not yet reported in, and they send two officers to the Enterprise while they're still working on the transporters, and they fuse them, and it turns into a plastic monster like this one. And
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
eek, 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 eek. One of them was a Vulcan, so that's why they needed an extra science officer, and they had to go get Spock from his graduation ceremony. They screwed up. That's Star Trek: The Motion Picture. In case you're
So
interested.
there are transporter errors also, but what I'm saying is, as far as just beaming the person into the whatever the stream and then not bringing them back right away,
I
that
mean, the
shouldn't
cat
mean
and all
that
these
shouldn't
people.
mean that you now get combined with whoever the next thing was.
Well,
Anyway,
yeah,
it's just
good
bad
point.
technology at that point. It's still, it needs developing. It needs work.
Boy, that's a really man. So many thoughts. You're right. The more I think about it, the more I don't understand the rules completely because.
The important thing to understand is that it doesn't work. Like,
Right.
and that we are now in 3 generations of this family that is now
Thank you, Drew. That was really good. Yes.
tried to
Yeah.
make it work, and the only thing it successfully does is create mutants. So if your goal was to create mutants, then it's a rousing success.
It's
But
like that thing in which Avengers movie is it where he's that he shoots that laser beam at things and he's supposed to miniaturize them, but then it turns them into like just blob or
Ant-Man.
whatever.
It's the first Ant-Man.
Was it the first? Right. So then somebody goes, I think it was Ryan George is like, well, that seems like a really actually better weapon.
Right.
It just turns you into
Well,
like
I mean,
slime that you can then flush down the toilets. That seems
yeah,
like
I
it should,
mean,
it's not like just a good weapon for a different purpose.
if the
Anyway.
Delambre family was going to supply circuses with
Right.
freak show exhibits, they got it down. But
Well,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
terrible.
all I'm saying is stick a person in there with like a more fearsome animal than a fucking fly, like
a lion or
yeah,
something.
like
Yes.
you could
Well, the
you
fly
could
was because he already had trauma about flies, so he was like,
Right.
"This will be really scary."
Oh, good golly. I mean, so what I was thinking about before we have the problem of the two scientists who materialize together, what I was thinking about before that was any creature that goes in there that doesn't get brought back out. You have to imagine a user interface on these things that we're not seeing that somehow says, all right, cat is coming through. Cat is defined as X. Please reach into the quantum realm and grab cat because we've sent it, please.
Well,
And
as it stands, though, it's not even that nuanced. It's just thing A goes like you send
Yeah.
thing A from A to B, right? Or thing X, I
Yeah.
guess would be a better. So thing goes through, and if there's more thing, if you send thing X, Y, and Z, then on the other end, it all just like gets put together.
It just gets put together. It
Like,
doesn't. Yeah.
there's no. It's not like a transporter in Star Trek where they pattern buffer everything and kind of sort it out.
Right.
This is just like this is just a thing comes through.
It's more like a water
pneumatic
slide where you.
tube. It's like a pneumatic tube
Yeah.
kind of system where you put the thing in the tube, it goes from point A to point B.
Yeah, and
that's
if
the
you want to mix
problem.
people, like they mix the people here deliberately to kill them, which is a crazy ass. I mean, it's only taken this. Well, it was the second movie when
the
people
thing
figured out
is like
to do this on purpose.
the thing is also like going with this guy is it's like we're gonna dispose of these two mutated people, we're gonna send them over, and we're not gonna fully explain what's going on, and then we're gonna expect my son over here to finish off whatever comes out
Oh my
of the
god.
other end of the
Yeah.
like this guy is a lunatic.
Yeah, you're right that's
Yeah.
primo mad scientist stuff. I mean, that's really
Meanwhile,
nutso.
according to the script repeatedly, all that guy wants is to have a good relationship.
Yeah.
Like, which doesn't which the dad also constantly poo-poos. Like, you should have better ones, like your brother who just got married to this woman who escaped from an asylum who also is keeping his wife, deformed wife. But if you really want to leave the family and go have normal people relations,
Right.
I don't know why you would.
But that's kind of how abusive.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I get like
people
that.
are.
No, that's part of it, but it's just all of that's terrible.
It's super,
All he
but
wants is to have this thing and not be part of like teleportation mutant family, which they're constantly just sidelining all of that. And then, oh, by the way, oops, you should definitely take care of this horrible mess we're sending you.
hope you have an
haven't know
axe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I gotta mention here that Don Sharp, Don Sharp didn't write the script for this, okay, but nevertheless, Don Sharp directed Kiss of the Vampire, which is one of the darker Hammer movies too. It's got a lot of a lot of stuff that really makes you question the morality of the vampire universe, and there's a lot of horror in terms of what does all of this mean for morality and for will and all of that. So maybe it's him a little bit playing around with all of this.
Possibly. I wonder if they ever pranked anybody. Like, I'm coming through, but then you send like a doll
Yeah.
that looks like you,
Well, I mean,
or maybe like a box.
He pranked him by sending in two people at once.
Well,
that
that
ended
was
up being
less of a
flop.
prank and more just a horrible reality to take care of this. But I'm talking in the early days.
Yeah.
Of like, because he's not just sending it from one
So
room
you
to
send
another
in
like the other one.
a scary clown.
Yeah, or just like a
Yeah.
box of something, like a box of or a plate. Like, good Lord, Dad didn't come through. It was, dishes.
Plate from the first movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, it's that damn plate. It's the cat.
Cat, yeah.
Yeah.
Finally. Yeah, well, I mean, the cat's wandering around the quantum realm even as we speak. I mean, somebody could go get it. But yes, has anybody here seen? So the writer of this film wrote The Watcher in the Woods. Many people have told me to watch The Watcher in the Woods, and I don't even know that movie at all. I know that there are two versions, but
Been a long time. But since I got the box set of all the folk horror, I need to check it out.
Oh, it's in there. All right. Yeah. It's a 1980 movie filmed at Pinewood, but it's the same screenwriter as this film. And this guy did not write a lot of movies, which I find fascinating. He but he did do that one, and he did Surf Party, which is not a movie I'd call a great film, but I've definitely seen it. And he did like 5 major films. Anyway, so, okay, the thing is, the plots begin to come together because they introduce one more thing, which is they actually bring in a legacy character, which is Inspector Sharas, who was the police detective who investigated the crimes in the original movie. Not the same actor, it doesn't matter, but and he's old now. But he kind of tells the story of what the Delambre family is up to. And so everything begins to all the plots begin to come together, and everything sort of falls apart because the police are coming. I'm actually having a hard time remembering now what happened to Brian Donlevy. Oh, Brian Donlevy's trying to escape. Is that right? Brian Donlevy tries to escape, but there's nowhere to go to because his son already took apart the transporter in London. Is that what happens?
Well, he doesn't realize that. Like they are going to all go through the idea is they're all going to go through the transporter.
They're all going to escape
And
to London. Yeah.
London. Poor Patricia is drugged up now, and
And these scenes look like
Oh.
Doctor Who, by the way. I mean, in that lab in the 1960s part of the house, it's and these really look like Doctor Who scenes, where they're fighting around in a giant lab.
By the way, it wasn't Watcher in the Woods that's in that box set. It's Eyes of Fire.
Ah, okay, sorry.
Sorry.
But Watcher in the Woods, people keep telling me it's super good.
Yeah, no. I saw it years ago, and was that the Disney one? Am I thinking the same?
It may very well be Disney. It's 1980.
Watcher
Buena
in the
Vista, which
Woods-
is Disney. Yeah.
Watcher in the Woods is a Disney movie. But the I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail things. I just
No,
in my
it's
mind,
okay.
Like, I got them.
So
I wanted Watcher in the Woods. Like I remember kind of watching those at the same time, and for some reason it was in my head.
It's one of those movies that should be on Disney Plus,
Yes,
but isn't.
it's that era,
exactly.
like
Yeah.
something wicked that Disney is hiding from the universe for
Yep.
reasons.
Yeah.
What they call the dark period, because it's also Dragon Slayer, which is an incredibly good movie, but also very cynical. And,
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Back to this movie.
We were talking about how this film wraps up. They're all going to try to flee to London, but and by the way, I should mention the servants have run away. They finally.
Well, no, they tell the. Well, okay. Before we get to the ending, I want to talk about how I would. So the actor, I'm blanking on his name. Actor that plays the essentially the butler.
Burt Kwok,
who was also in the Pink Panther movies.
Mhm.
But you have one legitimately Asian actor, and then you have one actor in yellowface.
Yes.
And it's also the worst makeup in the entire movie, by the way, for some reason. Like the makeup effects on her, like she just looks so bizarre. But
yeah, that's true.
But I would love to pick his brain on like how he felt about having to work with this woman who's not only made up to look Asian, she's playing sort of a yellow peril kind of dragon lady
accents.
stereotype. Yeah, and
yeah.
And she's good movie, like like as problematic as the stuff is, she does play what's required of her well.
Yeah.
She's very sinister. But I just I would
really
love to know how he felt, how like, and when I was listening to the commentary on the Shout Factory Blu-ray, like I kept expecting them to talk about that, but even when they talked about the makeup and they talked about the actors playing this couple, they didn't touch on it. And if there is in any interview with this guy about this, the only thing that they said is that he did not think much of this movie, and maybe that's why. But I just find that such like, could they not find they could hire an Asian guy, but could they not find an Asian actress?
Well, I think it's
really good
indicative
question
of the time, and probably also, I mean, I don't mean to put anything in, I shouldn't probably suppose this, but also if you're paid to do the job, I bet he probably went home and was like, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
Really? But I need to show up, hit my marks, and do the job. But I'm sure it probably wasn't great to, because there's.
I agree. I would love
there.
to have heard him say about that, but you're probably right.
Yeah, I'm sure that that Tony's right, and he had a very workman-like attitude about it. But like, it's I thought about it doubly, because again, her makeup is the worst makeup in this movie.
It's
Like
truly
most of
bizarre.
the
Uh,
creature makeups are decent. Some of them are downright unnerving. Like the guy that's like that I don't know how did they show only briefly, who's just like really gaunt. Like
Yeah.
that's super creepy.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. And you know the guy who has the face that looks like crumbling shortbread. That there used to be production stills of that would show up in like Cracked and Crazy. You know, we've talked about this
Yeah, for
before.
real.
How and that was the only. And they wouldn't even bother because nobody would bother. It was like, oh, this still, by the way, is from Curse of the Fly. So you're like, what the hell? What is that? Yes. So yeah. Henri is lost because because the sun has already destroyed the teleporter in London. And as the police are arriving, Martin, George Baker, I can't remember why so Martin is chasing after Patricia. All I know is that he winds up going into his car and dying. I don't remember, like, I know why he's dying. It's because he doesn't have the serum that keeps him young because he has fly DNA that makes him age rapid. But
Did his
uh,
brother have more of that in England? Like,
I
it's just the whole thing. You know, that's like the one thing. Like, I feel like all of these. If I were to lob a criticism at this movie, I feel like all the relationships in this movie are very intricate and interesting to me.
mhm.
But then it ends just like every other monster movie, you know, from this time period, in that it ends very abruptly. And I wish that you know there was, you know, some time for a little bit more payoff on some of this stuff,
Absolutely.
particularly with the Patricia character, because like at the back of my mind, like, is she going right back to the institution after the incarceral?
Yeah,
Like
because
what?
the police officer finds her and she goes, "My husband," and he finds the
I
skeleton
mean,
that's the husband, and he walks her back in the house, right?
if not for those issues, maybe seeing her husband as a skeleton in the car due to
Yeah, she may have a
degenerative
I
disease. But
think.
breakdown.
like that whole thing,
Oh,
all of
that's
that
Well,
pretty
I'm
for me
hoping it's
dramatic.
going to be
decided to
fine.
wrap it up. Like,
I
oh,
actually,
here we go, all wrapped up in a nice bow, a skeleton bow here, because the whole time that we've seen this degenerative disease, we've seen him kind of disfigured. But what we don't know is if he doesn't get the serum, he becomes a skeleton for some
Like immediately.
reason. Yeah.
like a
Immediately.
John Carradine Dracula skeleton, just like
Yeah.
pink, and there we go. Yes.
Oh,
Um,
that, it that whole we got to get to the end in
yeah,
this amount of time part also is the other part that doesn't really gel for
I
me
would have
either.
been fine with it, except I feel like that again. I just feel like that the rest of the movie plays out as much more adult, and then, you know, the
Yeah.
ending doesn't quite have that to it. And I keep, I know I keep harping on this, but I was very invested in the Patricia character. I would have loved,
sure.
and like the last part of this movie, she's your entryway character into this
Yes.
world, and then they kind of lose track of her in the last part of this movie. And
Yeah.
it's
That's why I keep saying it's got a lot of great parts, but
Yeah.
then especially as it moves on, it doesn't feel like it comes together.
You
well,
kind of
that's that
wonder if you were to
that's
rewrite this, what parts would get cut and what would be expanded and what would what would still be there.
Well,
I
I think you kind of know, because as I said earlier, I feel like the Cronenberg
yeah
version takes a lot from this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah
And you know, like, you know, I'm sure at some point, you know, they went and they screened the original 3 movies and kind of started saying, okay, we're going to take this bit here, this bit there, this bit here. Even if
mm,
they say they didn't, I don't believe that, because especially this movie, there's just so much of it that that makes you that just feels like the Cronenberg movie is calling back to it. But
yeah. I agree with you.
yeah, anyway,
I hate the fact that Judith is killed more or less in self-defense by Ty, and
in a better world, I feel like that I would like Judith and Patricia to work out their differences
well,
and
maybe she'll wake
team
up.
up.
I mean,
Like,
so Ty and Juan run away, right? And so by the end of this, everybody's either teleported or dead,
Well,
or skeletonized.
or
I mean, they
teleported to
leave.
death. Teleported to death.
They leave. One guy is basically a murderer, like, or accessory to murder. I
Oh,
mean, like,
Albert
it's
in London?
yeah,
Yes.
like they're just like, hey, Albert. So, oops, we sent you this thing to take care of, and he ends up trashing the teleporter. But
Well, okay, so
I mean, Albert's
that's the
stuck there with
question.
this thing and
Yeah.
destroy. Like,
That's a question that
nothing's
I
good that's
have.
going to come out of Albert's situation either.
Yeah.
That's a question I have though. Do you think he destroyed the teleporter because like there was no real way to get that creature out of it, so he had to like basically wham the
No,
axe into it?
no, he
Or do you
just
think
had
he did it because
enough.
he was
Yeah.
that's
Just
what
had
I
enough.
think
He's
he
like, no,
destroyed the
this
creature.
is
However he
wrong.
did that, we don't know.
Yeah.
well,
this
it's got
And
an
then-
axe stick. It's got an
Yeah,
axe.
yeah. He just
Yeah.
no. All he did is kill it. He didn't actually. We don't see him dispose of it yet.
Right.
But no, he just was like, "I'm done with this shit. No way. Forget this."
Well, that and because it's dramatic, and we decided that's what we're
Yeah.
gonna do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes. So seriously though, by the end, everyone's gone except this police officer walking the distraught Patricia back into the house. And Judith is lying, presumably dead, on the floor of the lab. It's entirely possible Judith is alive. I have hopes in the fanfic version of this afterwards. Patricia is going to get Judith off whatever drugs are fogging her brain, and they're going to live out their lives as a couple of spinsters in this big old Delambre
so you
mansion.
think it's drugs and not damage from the teleportation accident?
I mean, in my version, it's drugs.
Oh yeah,
He's trying to to happy.
I gotcha.
I mean, I would be okay with them just teaming up and murdering Lombres. Like, I
Yes,
don't
finding
even
every Delambre out there.
like going Thelma and Louise on it, because like these guys are terrible. Like,
Oh, I know.
they're really awful, and that's probably why they have to wait until later in the movie to show you that they're keeping their failures in stockades, because like they have this like whole romantic angle, and I think if you knew going into it that Martin had locked up his mutated wife, I think don't think you'd be as into that part of it.
Yeah. Do you know, well, you know what? I was suddenly going off down the rabbit hole of writing a sequel to this where they hunt Delambres, and then I realized nobody wants to hear my Curse of the Fly fanfic.
I think that we're gonna have to put that up on Facebook and get a yay or nay on that. I just hope that like I will get this into my final thoughts.
Okay. Golly. Okay, I'm trying to think. I'm going to look at my notes here and see if I missed any points that we brought up. I do want to mention, like I said, the Amicus pictures were shot at Shepperton, and so there are a lot of moments that if you've watched those, like Tales from the Crypt and Torture Garden and all that stuff, you see things that look similar. Like, you can imagine this being in Amicus color, and I'm kind of shocked that it's not, honestly. So it looks like a film filmed at Shepperton Studios, and that kind of makes me happy.
I'm back on the. I start thinking about like. I let my imagination run away with me about these two women living their lives together, like Odd Couple style, and I'm thinking like of them playing the Heart and Soul. Yeah. No, they're playing Heart and Soul on the piano because
Right.
only
Oh
use
my
one
goodness.
hand.
I got you. I'm feeling that as well.
Oh my God, that's
Well, I mean, and also this transporter, who's to say that it couldn't actually, if it locks in on DNA, then why can't it also be a time machine? I mean, they could go back and try to kill David Hedison just to keep all this nonsense from happening. I have high hopes for these two, for Patricia.
That's
Judith.
a lot of fanfic stuff there, Jason. I mean, I'm not the arbiter of what's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's the leap from teleporter to time machine is big for me, but it's your fan fiction, and I think you should do whatever you want.
Well, Judith is a scientist, right? I mean, doesn't she do stuff to, I really can't remember actually, honestly, what
Presumably,
Judith,
she was a scientist.
there we go. Judith solves
Like
time travel.
her brain, once she gets off the drug, because she's been mutated, she is actually super intelligent.
Right.
And oh god, no, I'm doing it.
You know what? You know the way I'm surprised. I just realized I've never seen it in print, and maybe it isn't, but nobody's come up with a genre name for these mad scientists who do these kinds of experiments and calling them flyentists.
Oh my god.
Well, our
And I think-
good friends over at the Monster Movie Happy Hour call them ologists, but
Right,
Yes,
right.
but I
think
love the
this
idea of
specific
flyentists.
area of doing bad things through technology like this.
Yeah.
I am going to use the term flyentists.
That's
from
brilliant,
here
Tony.
on out.
Man,
I don't know if
I'm
it's
so
brilliant
proud
or
of you
not.
for
I'm
coming
just
up with that
saying.
word too.
would you say that was fly of him?
Oh no, for a white guy.
All right. Let's get our final
I don't know
thoughts.
if you can hear the eye rolling that I'm doing over here for all
I
of
can
these
hear it.
ones.
I
Yeah.
was just upstairs.
Although it just sounds like
Help
that's the
me!
sound.
Help me!
Exactly. Oh, that's
are
even
so
more appropriate,
far-
Julia. I think yes. Anyway.
That movie, that original movie with the help me in the garden and the beautiful colors and all that stuff, we are so far from that movie by
True.
this movie, and it took 2 films to get there. That's amazing. Although I have to say, from Planet of the Apes to Escape from Planet of the Apes, probably a similar leap in terms of what kind of a movie you're in. So, and I'm not saying I don't like Escape. I'm just saying that's amazing to me. Okay. Final thoughts, Julia, Tony, Drew. Julia, I don't know. Maybe you've already shared as much as you care to, but what are your final thoughts about Curse of the Fly?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just to reiterate what I said earlier, which is that I think it's dark, but it doesn't mean I thought it was that I loved it, you know? I
Right.
just thought it was disturbing. I think there were definitely some parts that were thought provoking and interesting and in like I say in a disturbing way. But no, I didn't think it was like the super fun movie. But it's just I think it explores some really interesting themes though. So I'm trying to think if there's anything that we missed really. There's not a whole I don't think there's a whole lot about the look of the film that I wanted to add. There weren't as many cool cars like there were in the second one. So
No, that's
I
true.
don't yeah. Well, it's a much cheaper movie. I mean, they didn't do nearly as much, moving around in it and stuff. But I think we've covered most of the themes I wanted to talk about.
Thank you very much. Tony, what about you?
Yeah, I still think it doesn't quite all come together for me, and I was kind of left cold by the time it comes to the end. But I do think like it has a really such a strong opener, and just the way that they even filmed the like glass coming at you screen like scene,
Mm-hmm.
and just all of that stuff at the beginning.
Those titles, those opening titles, which are like in that whatever font that is. Yes.
It kind of sets things up for perhaps a different kind of flavor of movie. I do think there's some really interesting bits, but I never, it could have, and again, this could be just, how you see things, at what time you see things. All these factor into, me watching it late at night, not on a Blu-ray, not with commentary, not, all of that stuff, effects that you bring into it, but it doesn't, I think it doesn't come out as a sum of its parts. I really think there's some cool stuff here, but not all of it really works for me. And I think the ending felt super rushed and kind of, well, it's the end.
Yeah.
Now that guy's a skeleton, because that's how degenerative diseases work, I guess. Fly base, like why is that fly? Like why is the fly? I don't know, man.
But isn't it funny? That's something that doesn't happen now. Like we used to watch these movies and you go, oh, they're at the 85-minute point that now everything is going to like wrap up. Now, since movies are 2 or 3 hours,
I don't even exactly have a problem with that when I see it. Sometimes it happens. It's just the way this kind of all comes together. I don't know. It didn't work for me as well, but that doesn't mean it's not worth like checking out, because again, watching the third movie, it is like a lost class. I mean, that the aspect of it where you just couldn't see this movie and now we can, through various means, and official and unofficial, I guess. But the fact that it exists out there, I mean, I'm always, of course, an advocate for, hey, it's out on Blu-ray. That's the way to get it. To support the
Yeah.
people who are putting this out, who revive it, put it extras in, restore it. That's no mean feat, right? And I'm always an advocate for, if it's available, throw the money at the people making things available for you so that we can get more cool stuff. That's always a factor. But it is interesting. It is fascinating that you just couldn't, for a long time you saw pictures, again, like you said, in Cracked, Crazy,
Yeah.
and maybe some film magazines, horror magazines, and then now we can view it. That's cool. That's worth checking it out and kind of getting to the, does it work for you or not? Is kind of on your own, but hey, now it's available. That's awesome. And I think there's some really great parts to it. I think it's well worth checking out. But as far as an all-time classic for me, maybe not, other than it's cool to watch all three in succession. But I do kind of agree with Drew that also, had you viewed it in the time period that it was created, you probably would have not quite cared as much. It just depends, like, oh, well, I want to go see a Fly movie. the family's back doing teleporter stuff. Yeah, let's go. That's that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
And it's shocking this is the last one, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that it doesn't keep going.
I mean, by the end of this one, I don't know if it's shocking or not. I guess I don't know what the box office receipts were, but I mean,
Disappointing.
when they decide
the
to wrap
answer.
it up, they do wrap it up. Other than the brother being stuck with a bunch of teleporter technology and a mess of
I
fused
guess you
people.
could have gone on like Martin and Patricia do have sex, so you could have had like great grandson of the Fly or whatever.
Sure.
But
The Fly legacy, yes.
yeah, like you could have done that, but I think,
Or he might have kids that we don't know about with Judith.
yeah,
Right.
Well, I'm gonna take care of this in family. So
Nice.
Thank you, Tony. Drew, what about you? Final thoughts.
I had a lot of thought. I wish I had been more organized in my thoughts, because I had a lot of thoughts going in on this, and I feel like a lot of them went to the wayside when we were talking about it. But I will say one thing that I did not get a chance to say is how much I loved the clothing in this movie. I think that everybody was very sharply dressed, and there was a particular moment when I was rewatching it today where Patricia has this what you call like a cocktail bombshell kind of dress on at one point, where she's meeting her father-in-law for the first time, and Jamie was in the midst of doing work and she stopped just a moment to scope out that dress. So it was well appreciated throughout our household how well appointed everybody's clothing was in this flick. I think this is an interesting movie. I really enjoyed watching it. I guess I probably enjoyed it the most out of on it. I think that the fact that you have a heroine, a lead character that again is dealing with some psychological stuff is very interesting and appealing to me. And I like the darkness of this movie. I think in some ways it goes in new directions, but it also kind of goes back to some of the tragedy and hubris of the first movie, which I think is nice. It'll be interesting jumping from was essentially atomic age sci-fi horror films into the 80s when we come around to doing the next movie. But I am glad that I was finally able to see this after a quarter lifetime of curiosity about it.
Yeah. By the way, Drew, I totally agree with you. Set design and costuming on this, top notch.
Oh yeah.
For me, I just got to say the movie left me cold. But I did enjoy seeing what happens if you take this American series and plop it over into England and shoot it over there. And I loved discussing it with you guys. So this is yet another example of a movie that's not that great for me, but that I get so much out of discussing it with you. So that I'm very thankful for. So it's and it was nice to wrap up this whole series, to be able to watch the whole series and being able to see all of them and discuss them all. And I can't wait next week to jump a mere 20 years forward
A
to see
mere
Jeff
20
Goldblum.
years.
Yeah, to see what
Which is
what
not
Jeff
a long
Goldblum.
time. I mean, that's 2002 for
Right,
us.
Tobey Maguire played Spider-Man more than 20 years ago.
20 years is a long time.
20
Okay.
years is not a long time anymore. It was a long time when I was younger.
20 years is always a long time.
So I want to get into endorsements, and I have one of my endorsements, by the way, when it comes around to me, is a question for you guys based on an article I read, but I will keep that until we get to me. So Julia, I mean, I know that what we spent the last 7 hours of our lives watching, but like what
seven television hours, not
7
just
television
today.
hours, you're right. But
Actually,
is that what
I
you
was
would
watching
endorse, or
the
what
Oscars.
would you
Oh
endorse?
my God, I would so. Two things actually, but yes, no. Jason and I binge watched the first 7 of 9 episodes. There will be of Severance. Oh, so good! It is so good. It is a show about
Concept that I did not find, it seemed not that interesting to me as a
yeah, I
concept.
had to kind of drag him to watch this, but I really wanted to see it. It's a show that explores themes like, well, okay. So the idea is that that you can get a surgical procedure or surgical implant that will allow you to sever your person into a work person and a home life person. So, the theory is that that way you can be more productive at work and there can be work secrets and there's nothing from outside your life that's distracting you at work. And then when you go home, you're not bringing work home with you. However, what it really does is create a prisoner of the work person, because the work person can never leave, because every time they leave they get turned off and then they come back and they're back in work again. So it's really quite it's
AKA the
really
games industry. Crunch
Yes.
yeah.
time.
Well, but at the games industry, if only if you never got to see rain, or if you never got to, you know what I mean? Like it's just
I
like you
mean,
have nothing else.
Yeah.
when you
Not
work,
even just working all the time, but like you have nothing other than work in your world, like
yeah,
cats.
I feel like sometimes, I mean, when you work, sometimes have worked 120 hours a week,
Oh my God.
Well,
it
this is what I'm
feels,
saying. So that's why
yeah,
it's a good show, because everybody can bring something to
There's
it. You
so
know,
many things you'll
there's
go, oh, and that's like this.
That's like
You're
yeah,
right,
that's
right.
like
Yeah.
1984. That's like DID. That's like the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, right? Like all these things. But the characters are brilliant. The performances are brilliant. It's really, oh my gosh, it stars Adam Scott and John Turturro, and then Christopher Walken's in it. Christopher Walken's amazing. What's her name? Arquette. Patricia
Patricia Arquette.
Arquette is a wonderful villain, just fantastic. It's a really, really good show. I highly recommend it if you haven't started watching it yet. There's 2 more episodes coming out this season. And then the other thing we just watched for fun last night was The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum and Brad Pitt. Oh, so fun. I really enjoyed it. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's like kind of a Romancing the Stone, Indiana Jones style, but comedy, like really funny. More comedy than those movies, even though those movies are also funny. But so I thought it was really entertaining.
Yep.
So those were mine.
Thank you. Tony, what about you?
well, most of my time has been spent playing the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, which is beautiful and just really great writing. I think it looks great writing. There's so much in it, so much world building that's just really cool. I spent a lot of time watching that. And then I started a movie. I need to finish it. But again, I'm with Drew, where I'm watching tons of just black and white 2B stuff. I started The 27th Day. And it's very much a Twilight Zone kind of premise. Aliens take a bunch of people from all over the world and give them a doomsday device for reasons, and then it starts to play out. And I unfortunately started watching it. Sometimes I'll watch something at night and just kind of put it on, and it's okay if I fall asleep to it, like some of the serials and stuff. But this was like, no, I'm digging this enough that I feel like this deserves more attention, and I need to watch it play out. But I haven't revisited it. But it started really strong, and I was starting to really enjoy that. But I really do like how much how much cool stuff there is, sci-fi stuff you can watch on TV, and it's been my late night thing. I know I've said it a bunch of times, but
You're
the
not wrong. I
27th
love
Day
TV.
was really
Absolutely.
kind of cool. And then Rain and I watched Turning Red last night. and that was great. And
I've heard it's
Nice.
very strong.
charming.
Yeah.
Just James Hong is in it. Like that's great. Cast, crew, it's really enjoyable movie. I know that it seems like it's getting rave reviews. I don't need to. I think everybody's kind of really digging it, but we really enjoyed it. I really dug it. And I know there's a whole thing about, hey, is this relatable or whatever, and I'd find it like, I don't know,
As
they
relatable as
make
anything else, right?
it's really, yeah, like I think that's
I
part
would
of what's
just
cool about
honestly,
movies.
I would just ignore that
Oh,
commentary.
it's a
And
whole thing, and
that's
I did for the most part, but I'm watching, I'm like, this is just great. Like
yeah.
Well, yeah, we don't just watch stuff that's about people just like us. Why would we do that? That's
Ugh,
no,
that sounds.
exactly. Like you're
I'm
not going to
thinking
watch
of
only
me.
only movies
Yeah.
about only movies about guys in the games industry. No.
Yeah, no,
Right.
no. I
Goodness
thought it
gracious.
was great. It was really. I think it's awesome. Just so it's just clever. Yeah, it was great. But but like I said, I'm going back to. I'm gonna revisit the 27th Day, and also a whole bunch of other movies that showed up under the classics section. Now that Tubi, like I said before, has laser focused on, here's the stuff you're watching all them every night. Just do this. But mostly I've been playing video games just to kind of keep my mind occupied from everything else.
Wonderful. Thank you. Drew, what about you?
Well, first of all, I also want to. I know I did this with the first episode of this retro, but I want to, say this again. If you are interested in following along with these movies, we do them. Do yourself a favor and get the Shout Factory Fly box set that has the entire franchise, has all of the original movies. It has the 2 movies from the 80s. It's loaded with special features. So worth getting. I have enjoyed exploring these movies more in depth. If you're someone like me who enjoys a lot of trivia and insider knowledge, like you're not going to find a resource when it comes to the Fly movies than this box set. So highly recommended. Way different, Matt. Jamie and I were both sick this week, and we were spending a lot of time watching television. One of the things that we took in was Our Flag Means Death, which is a pirate comedy that's on HBO Max.
It's so good.
It's got Taika Waititi and God, I'm blanking on the actor's name. Murray from Flight of the Conchords. What is that actor's name?
Oh, I never remember the name.
Rise Darby. As Steve Bonnet and Blackbeard, respectively. And it is hilarious. It's heartfelt. I think those of you who enjoy Taika Waititi's other works will enjoy it. I think if you do Flight of the Conchords or What We Do in the Shadows, you enjoy it. And I also want to say, like, if you like the sort of ragtag band of misfits vibe that a lot of the James Gunn movies have, it's really well done. The entire first season is up on HBO Max now, and man, what a cast. Like it's got so many good, like every episode has, like you just when you think they can't outdo themselves on just like finding like a great character actor to put in a part. Like I don't know, I'm glad that you liked it as well, Tony, because like
it's amazing. Like it's just so, all of the love and hype for this show to me is warranted. It's like it starts out, oh that's cool, and then the way it builds is just fascinating to watch and heartfelt and hilarious. It's just, and it has a lot to say, and we really enjoyed it.
I
hoping
really hope it gets
season.
a second season. Yeah, like I will be excited to see where they can take it. I hope they can get most of the same actors back, because I could see some of the people being busy, because again, they just have like a really terrific cast from top to bottom. But man, highly recommended. not horror, obviously, but hey, yay, pirates.
Sure.
So still kind of genre adjacent. But I really enjoyed it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good tip. Because I've been looking forward to that as well. I always come out of this with like so many things that I haven't yet watched. Today while I was driving, I listened to the Monster Movie Happy Hour discuss Jesse James Meets Frankenstein's Daughter. Which I had not seen. So in preparation for listening to their show, because I love the show, I watched Jesse James Meets Frankenstein's Daughter, which is not a film that I recommend per se, but I'm glad that I watched it because I got to listen to the show and it meant more. Jesse James Meets Frankenstein's Daughter came out a year after Curse of the Fly. It is another 1960s film, but the groovy thing is it's in color and it looks, the way I described it on Twitter was, it is the best Jess Franco movie that Jess Franco didn't make. I mean, it looks like a grimy, badly, just vibrant red, kind of damaged color grisly horror film from the mid 60s. And I'm into that kind of thing, so it worked for me. But and it was fun to listen to them discussing it. The other thing is Slate ran which I love. I live by Slate. I constantly read all their advice columns to Julia, and that's one of the things that keeps us going. But they ran this article by Heather Schwettel, who is a critic, and she was complaining that she's hearing too many people lately complain that movies need to be 90 minutes long. And I've been saying that for a long time, where I'm like, I like movies that are around 90 minutes. And so she kind of gets mad and goes on a rant like, that's not how we should be judging movies. Movies can be long, it's okay, blah 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 blah. She's like, by the way, When Harry Met Sally is 95 minutes long, so there. And I want to ask you guys, would you be happier if the average movie that you went to, or does this influence your decision if I say to you, hey, let's go see this new movie, the new Dracula movie is coming out and it's 2.5 hours long. New Dracula movie is coming out, it's 90 minutes long. Are you slightly more likely to go?
Depends on the kind of movie it is.
Yeah.
If it's a movie that is like just a rom-com or whatever, and it's 2.5 hours, you're like, why? There's a way you could have fit this movie into 90 minutes. I think it just depends on, again, the specific movie. But
I just finally got around to seeing the new Spider-Man movie, and that movie would have been terrible if they had tried to do it at 90 minutes.
And further, you're enjoying it so much and it's so full that you're not like, it doesn't feel like it just goes on and on.
No, but they had a lot of characters, and they were able to get characterization for most of them because of the length. Like if that had been trunicated, I don't think you would have got that. And like some of the acting in that, like Willem Dafoe goes above, like he should have been nominated for a fucking Oscar as far as I'm concerned, considering that he was just doing basically a greatest hits cameo for and he steals every scene he's in. So like I don't think Jason, I think I'm with
But then
Julia.
there's movies like AI where you're just like, this movie should have ended 4 endings ago. You're just like, why is it?
That's not.
Why
But
is
that
there
doesn't
another
mean
ending?
that I'm gonna say that. I don't know. These discussions tend to me to feel like, who really likes pineapple on pizza?
Okay. So you're saying it feels like a fake conversation, like people aren't really concerned about this.
Because look, in our household, Rain prefers shorter movies. If it's a movie is super long, even if it's a good movie that doesn't feel that long, we make those decisions. Myself, I've seen short movies that feel like they're 5 hours.
True.
I've seen long movies where I could have used another, I wanted this to be a mini series.
Same.
This is art and it's subjective. And the idea of like, I want this thing, like, yay, awesome for you. But say like, yes, I get why that could be a case. And for many people, that is
agreed.
Factor. But
the funny thing is,
why be angry about, like, I don't
just get
all
over
this
it.
stuff. It doesn't affect you in general. Like I guess as a critic, you have to go to a bunch of long movies. Maybe it does start to affect you. Like,
well, in this case, the critic is clearly worried. Like I have not heard a lot of people saying this because I've been saying it myself. I actually do prefer movies to be a
I
little
know
shorter.
I know people that feel the same way, but like
Sure, but
I
I
think
don't
that
think
she's
there's a one
worried that
size fit
that
all.
Hollywood is going to hear it and go, "Oh, I guess we need to make movies 90 minutes long or something."
I don't
I
think
can't say.
that's going to be the case when the first movie to hit $1 billion here in the COVID pandemic is
It's
a
3 hours long.
as a 2.5 hour long.
Well, and Endgame also was super long. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
like if you have a lot of story to tell, I would prefer you to give that story breathing room. And
sure.
there's certain things that it depends. It just depends, Jason. Like it really does. Like I guess that feels like a cop out non-answer, but like I don't want there to be a uniform agreed upon length to movies, because I think that
for sure.
a movie
But there
is
already, I mean, sometimes there is like, this is this many. We want this to be this many pages, right?
True.
We're accepting scripts that are this many pages. So if you start like, it's whatever makes money for the most part, unless you're a studio that's willing to, you take risks, right? It's like the same with radio. Like we can't play a 10-minute song because we can't fit as many ads in. So the perfect length for a song has been agreed upon.
But then
sub 4
that's a
minutes.
great example, because if you watch the like Queen movie, they talk about how like nobody wanted to put out Bohemian Rhapsody because it was too long and weird.
Right.
So,
So art,
exception to every
but
rule.
again,
Yep.
art. It's art.
Yep.
It's and not every movie is as artistic. Like sometimes it's commercial art, right?
I think a fair way to say it also is that there are movies we don't watch, and you said it exactly right. If you don't like the movie, one of the things that we'll pick on is also it was like 2 hours. I didn't like it,
It's
and
too
it was
long.
two and a
Right,
half
right,
hours
right.
long.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Or
Anyway,
you
I
might
think
look at it. You might also go, "Why is a superhero movie 2.5 hours long?"
I
I've
liked
seen ones that
Superman.
aren't.
I liked Once
I
Upon a
think
Time in Hollywood, and that was like 3 hours. But
I think we've
whatever.
covered this topic
Okay,
to death.
fascinating conversation. Just wanted to mention it. That
Oh, hey,
Jesse
I have a
James
question for
brings
you,
this up.
Jason. I
Yes.
saw a movie, speaking of TV, that I was wondering if you had seen, and it's this is the most Jason title for what you've been doing book-wise lately as well. It's called The Beach Girls and the Monster.
Beach
And
Girls and
have
the
you seen
Monster.
this? Beach Girls and the Monster. And I
I
figured,
probably, honestly, probably have, and I think that I'm mixing it up with Horror of Party Beach, but I know that
yeah.
I've at least seen parts of The Beach Girls and the Monster. It's unbelievable to me that we haven't done a surf horror retrospective. How is that even possible?
That's true. Yeah, I don't know how.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
sock
that
that
would
one
go
away for
well.
the future.
Yeah, we'll have to remember that. Okay. Well, I guess that wraps it up. I am so pleased. I just want to say how thankful I am for you guys. That it makes me happy that even if sometimes when there's a week between a show or whatever, it's really, you're my friends and I love you, and I'm very glad that we get to talk. So thank you,
Man,
everybody,
thank
and
you.
and I'll talk to you next time. We'll watch some super violent body horror from the '80s, and
Do I have to?
well, I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
Give that some thought.
you don't, but
So
If
we're
you,
not
Julie,
gonna hold you hostage.
you haven't seen The Fly, the 80s?
No, I have. I just forgot it was body horror. Super
it's
violent
Jeff
body horror.
Goldblum.
Oh,
I
yeah.
But
do
if
love
you would
Jeff.
like,
Jeff Goldblum is one of my boyfriends, so I go watch
if
it
you
for
would
him.
like
see.
leave, you can file a
He
form
is no,
99-4A.
he is one of my celebrity crushes.
It was on the other night at a gig I was at on the inside.
Oh, sweet.
And I was like, oh wait, yeah, I'm viewing this again soon. So that was kind of cool, coincidental thing.
All right, have a great night.
Night.
Apparently, while we were recording, Will Smith apparently punched Chris Rock. So I guess we're gonna go find out what that's all
Yeah,
about.
well, I know what that's about.
But
I've been
let's save
watching
it. We'll talk
been
about it
reading
afterwards. All right.
Later.
Okay, bye.
Adios. Bye, everybody.